not all people with autism. So that's the formal way of going about describing autism. But what does it actually look like? If you meet a person with autism, what are you going to see? Well, essentially, you'll see a variety of things, and it depends on the degree of impairment, the way that autism is expressed in the particular individual, and how that person is. And, more than anything else, their personality, how they've adapted to the neurotypical world around them, and basically a lot of factors, where they are at the time, if they're anxious. But these are a few of the markers that you might come across. Poor eye contact is one trait that you might see. Often this is anxiety provoking. And people with autism may not take cues from the face, as I said before. They might not find that a very informative way of picking up on additional information, and they may choose to rely on other cues. They don't seem to know how to play with toys at a very young age. When you study children with autism and compare them to children without autism, you'll find subtle differences after a while of looking at them. And you'll find certain obsessions like stacking up bricks and anxiety when they can't stack up the full number of bricks. This is of course, this is stereotyping and generalizing, but these are what you might class as some of the classic traits of autism in children at a very young age. So obsessions are present from a very young age, and play is markedly different. And often when you take a child away from an activity they're engaged in, this can produce a lot of anxiety. And these types of things express themselves differently depending on which child with autism you might approach, and they're all different. That's my take on this. Children often become attached to one particular object. It might be a toy like a car, toy train, or something like that, or a teddy bear, or whatever it might be for the particular child. And when that is removed from them, they have incredibly stressful times. So it's anxiety provoking when that particular attached object is removed. And there are all kinds of different arguments that come out of this in some of the academic field to do with attachment or lack of attachment in autistic children. We won't go there today with this, except to give a more descriptive expression, if you like, of the symptoms. One of the key markers is that the child sometimes, not always, doesn't smile or doesn't smile appropriately. So may not respond to affection always, may find physical touches that other children would find comforting, distressing even. So might smile inappropriately. At a very early age, children with autism often seem to be hearing impaired. When you call out their name, they won't turn their head and recognise the person who's calling it out. So they won't orientate to speaker. And at a very young age, this is, or has been used as one of the diagnostic markers of very, very early autism. So they do tend sometimes to be misdiagnosed with hearing impairment, which is very, very easy to test actually. But many years ago, the history of the diagnosis of autism, lots and lots of children were misdiagnosed as profoundly deaf, when in fact they weren't anything of the sort there. Sometimes we see this diagnosis happening today. What does autism sound like? Well, the child doesn't often point or make baby babble noises or gesture by the age of about 1. So there are differences from a very early age, and we're seeing children with autism being diagnosed very, very early now. Usually the child doesn't speak one word by about 16 months of age. However, some have language, but unfortunately lose it a bit later on. So there is autistic regression. Now, that doesn't mean to say that this is acquired autism. A variety of suggestions as to how autism may be acquired. It means perhaps that the neurocognitive course of brain development hasn't followed a traditional route. Perhaps, and there are, as I say, with everything I say, there's a counter-argument in the field of autism, but this is traditionally held to be the belief. Children don't follow the traditional course of language development, which is highly predictable chronologically. So at the age of 2, they're not forming or combining 2 words there. So don't typically, as I've said before, respond when their name is called, and they can lose language or social skills there. So as I've said, you can get a regressive nature to some very young children with autism. So it would seem that they're acquiring language and then have lost it. In fact, there are neurocognitive or structural differences in the brain that are passing through various developmental phases that account for this apparent loss in language. We shan't go into that. All right, but what does autism feel like? Okay, so great hypersensitivity to touch and also to sounds there. So some kind of have very, very stressful times when